This is Nightline and I'm Muhammed Ahmad Hamdan, and here are the top stories. Bill to protect welfare of 1.2 million gig workers tabled in the Dewan Rakyat. And government to announce details of targeted RON 95 subsidies by end of September. Good morning. We begin with this headlining story. The Gig Workers Bill 2025 was tabled for its first reading in the Dewan Rakyat on Monday. Human Resources Minister Stephen Sim said it is designed to protect the rights and welfare of 1.2 million gig workers and to secure a sustainable future for the sector. When tabling the bill, Sim stated that the bill marks a historic milestone in the nation's efforts to recognize the vital role of gig workers and bring clarity to a sector that has for years existed in a legal vacuum. It contains four key components, namely the definition of gig workers, a complaint mechanism, payment rates and social security provisions.
Mereka tidak lagi bertarung nyawa, berjuang untuk bangunkan ekonomi negara, keringat mencari rezeki halal.
The Gig Workers Bill provides for the introduction of a consultative council where gig workers can engage in discussions on wage rates and payments with industry stakeholders. These include setting minimum earnings rates and the formula used to determine them. Any disputes can be referred to a gig workers tribunal, which is to be established under the bill. The Human Resources Ministry engaged with nearly 4,000 stakeholders, including platform companies and gig worker associations, to help shape the bill. Now, experts and advocates said the Gig Workers Bill could reshape the future of work, bringing long-awaited protections while ensuring the sector remains fair and sustainable. According to My Mobility Vision Chief Executive Officer Wan Agil Wan Hassan, the impact would be significant for workers, as for many of them, gig work is no longer a side hustle, but a primary source of livelihood.
For workers, the priority has to be fair protections like social security, insurance and dispute mechanisms, without destroying the flexibility that makes the gig works attractive. For platform and industry players, it means clarity and predictability in regulations so that they can continue innovating and competing fairly.
Wan Agil added that Malaysia now has the chance to lead the region in building a gig economy that is both fair and sustainable, but only if the balance is done right. Meanwhile, panel advisor to Uni Malaysia Labour Centre, Tan Sri Lee Lam Tai, described the upcoming Gig Workers Bill as both timely and crucial, stressing that gig workers must not be left behind in Malaysia's economic transformation. He added that the legislation should guarantee social protection, ensure fair pay and income stability, and give workers the right to collective representation without fear of losing their jobs. Lee also emphasized that platform companies must be held accountable with transparent contracts and proper dispute resolution mechanisms. Meanwhile, the Dewan Rakyat has passed the Legal Aid and Public Defence Bill 2025, a significant legislative reform aimed at strengthening and upgrading legal aid services in Malaysia. The new law will bridge the justice gap, particularly for the poor, children, persons with disabilities and accused individuals who cannot afford their own legal representation. Minister in the Prime Minister's Department for Law and Institutional Reform, Datuk Sri Azalina Othman Said, in her winding-up speech, stated that the bill will modernize the legal framework to cover not only civil and Sharia matters, but also mediation and legal counselling. It also provides for the establishment of the posts of Chief Public Defender and Public Defence Officers.
Tetapi yang begitu menarik dalam undang-undang ni, Puan Yang Dipertua, ialah aspek memberikan bantuan pendampingan pada kes kanak-kanak, yang mana yang berhormat, banyak yang berhormat ada tanya tentang isu kanak-kanak tu dalam kes-kes buli. Saya memang melihat bahawa dengan kemungkinan insya-Allah kalau kerajaan mewujudkan satu akta anti buli, yang mana kemungkinan katakan contohnya kes-kes di bawah 18 tahun ataupun kanak-kanak yang terlibat dalam kes ni, saya cukup yakin bahawa pendampingan kanak-kanak dan juga bantuan guaman ni akan banyak dipakai. Sebab dia tidak mengatakan bahawa membezakan antara bawah 18 dengan atas 18.
The bill was introduced to repeal the Legal Aid Act 1971 and enhance legal aid in criminal proceedings by establishing it under the new name of Public Defence Services. Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim has criticised the opposition for denying the achievements of the Madani government over the past 3 years. The Prime Minister emphasised that all arguments or accusations must be based on facts rather than mere political rhetoric. When tabling the motion for the 13th Malaysia Plan in the Dewan Negara on Monday, Anwar said various reform measures have been implemented, including anti-corruption efforts and improvements in governance. He added that even state governments led by opposition parties have benefited from larger allocations compared with previous years.
Walaupun hujah mereka transisi Inapetua ialah bahawa sumbangan kepada negeri badan negara tinggi. Tak benar. Tapi saya nak tunjukkan bahawa sumbangan ini jauh lebih besar daripada yang pernah diluluskan sebelumnya.
He clarified that the government has allocated 2.1 billion ringgit for Kedah and 3.1 billion ringgit for Kelantan this year, while Terengganu will receive 1.8 billion ringgit and Perlis 610 million ringgit. He said the allocations are intended towards developing basic infrastructure such as highways and clean water and electricity supply. The funds are aimed at providing better facilities for the people, boosting economic activity and improving the standard of living. Meanwhile, Anwar emphasised that government aid and assistance are provided to all citizens in need, regardless of ethnicity. This includes support through the Sumbangan Tunai Rahmah or STR and the Sumbangan Asas Rahmah SARA.
Pendekatan kita itu tidak ini untuk program Cina, ini untuk India, untuk dia orang asli, ini untuk Sarawak. Tak. Macam STR, dia menyuruh siapa yang memenuhi syarat untuk pertama golongan apa yang disebut miskin tegar. Ada daerah Melayu majoriti, ada daerah macam Sentul, India majoriti. Bukan perkiraan kaum. Semua yang layak dijamin mendapat.
Anwar noted that the bulk of the STR and SARA cash assistance, amounting to 7.1 billion ringgit, was channeled to the targeted Malay community. The Chinese community was the second largest group of recipients, accounting for nearly 19% of beneficiaries, while the Indian community received 972 million ringgit in assistance. Sabah natives and Sarawak Bumiputra also benefited significantly, receiving 1 billion ringgit and 800 million ringgit respectively. In another development, the Prime Minister highlighted that the government has successfully reduced the country's new debt. He said the overall national debt may appear higher because the government continues to shoulder interest payments on legacy debts inherited from previous administrations. Anwar stated that the fiscal deficit has gradually been reduced to below 3% of gross domestic product under the 13th Malaysia Plan. The government's current debt level also remains below 60% of GDP.
Ketelahan daripada setengah rakan-rakan saya sebelah sana, dia kata hutang bertambah. Tak benar. Hutang baru kerajaan tu kurang. Saya dah baca banyak kali dah. Iaitu hutang daripada 100 bilion turun 90, turun 80, turun 70 bilion. Itu yang kita lakukan. Tapi hutang keseluruhan yang dengan bunga, yang bukan kita pinjam, yang kita warisi, itu bertambah. Sehingga kita boleh turun lagi jumlah hutang barulah kita berkembang.
He added that gross national income per capita is also projected to rise to 77,200 ringgit over the next 5 years, surpassing the threshold for a high-income nation. The government is also confident that inflation will remain stable at between 2 and 3% annually. The Sultan of Brunei, Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah, arrived in Malaysia on Monday to begin a 4-day state visit at the invitation of the Yang di-Pertuan Agong Sultan Ibrahim. The special aircraft carrying Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah landed at the Royal Malaysian Air Force Base in Subang at 3:03 p.m. The monarch was welcomed on arrival by Tunku Temenggung Johor, Tunku Idris Iskandar Sultan Ibrahim, and Prime Minister Datuk Sri Anwar Ibrahim. On Tuesday, Sultan Hassan Al Bolkiah will be accorded an official state welcome at Istana Negara, followed by an audience with the Yang di-Pertuan Agong and a state banquet. Wisma Putra in a statement said the visit will be followed by the 26th Malaysia-Brunei Annual Leaders Consultation. The high-level talks between the two countries will assess their mutual cooperation, discuss emerging issues and exchange views on regional and international matters. Moving on, the government is expected to announce details of the targeted RON95 fuel subsidies by the end of next month. Second Finance Minister Dato Sri Amir Hamzah Azizan said the matter is being finalised, and like the targeted electricity and diesel subsidies, it will not affect the wider public.
Dalam fasa akhir memperhalusi kriteria kelayakan dan kaedah pelaksanaan penyasaran subsidi petrol 95, RON 95 dengan semua pihak berkepentingan. Ini termasuklah pelbagai mekanisme pelaksanaan meliputi pengujian penggunaan MyCard, e-dompet dan aplikasi syarikat minyak.
Speaking during a special chamber session in Parliament on Monday, Amir added that the scheme will include a quota system, setting a monthly cap on the amount of subsidised petrol each recipient can purchase. He explained that the system would distinguish between ordinary users and those whose jobs are heavily dependent on petrol, such as e-hailing and p-hailing drivers, who will receive a higher quota since petrol is their primary source of income. The government will also set up a special portal to allow the public to check their eligibility to enjoy the RON95 fuel subsidies. A dedicated service or call centre will also be established to help users obtain accurate information. Those who qualify will be able to purchase RON95 petrol at the subsidised price of RM1.99 per litre. The Education Ministry has stressed that there will be zero tolerance towards bullying at all educational institutions in the country. Minister Fadil Nasidik said various intervention programs and related initiatives are being carried out to put a stop to bullying.
Tiada kompromi dalam isu buli dan kita akan mengambil tindakan tegas terhadap pentadbir guru JPN PPD yang kita dapati melindungi kes-kes buli ini. Kita juga melaksanakan pelbagai program intervensi.
She added that the ministry's commitment to tackling bullying was reinforced through the issuance of a circular last year, which serves as a comprehensive guideline for schools. The circular outlines, among other things, how to define bullying, case management procedures, and the implications for both the perpetrators and victims. In Sarawak, 74 residents were left homeless after a massive fire erupted at the Seberang Pasar Lama Tatau squatter settlement in Bintulu on Monday morning. In the 10 a.m. incident, 19 squatter houses built in rows along the Batang Tatau riverbank were completely destroyed. According to the State Fire and Rescue Department, teams from the Tatau and Bintulu fire stations rushed to the scene by boat as fire engines could not access the site, which was only reachable via the Batang Tatau River. Arriving at 10:20 a.m., firefighters used 4 portable pumps, drawing water from the river to contain the blaze. The flames were finally brought under control at 11:06 a.m. A 13-year-old boy suffered burns on his back and was taken to the Tatau Health Clinic for treatment. The cause of the fire and the amount of losses are still under investigation. The expansion of the Sales and Service Tax, or SST, has so far had only a moderate impact on inflation. According to BIMB Securities Research, the rise in service costs has been concentrated in selected sectors such as insurance, financial services, restaurants and accommodations. In its latest monthly economic report, the research firm noted that inflation edged up slightly to 1.2% in July, while the Consumer Price Index rose 0.1%. On the restructuring of electricity tariffs, the impact is expected to be minimal, cushioned by a 17.9% drop in global coal prices and the strengthening of the ringgit. Overall, Malaysia's inflation is projected to remain moderate this year, within the range of 1.5 to 2%. FGV Holdings Berhad will be delisted from Bursa Malaysia on Thursday, marking the completion of Felda's years-long bid to take the plantation giant private. In a filing with Bursa Malaysia on Monday, FGV said its entire issued share capital will be removed from the exchange's official list with effect from 9 a.m. on August 28th. This comes after Felda secured a 94.97% stake in FGV at the close of its unconditional takeover offer on August 15th, triggering a suspension in trading of the counter on August 22nd. Felda subsequently served notice to dissenting shareholders, giving them until January 5, 2026 to require the state agency to purchase their remaining shares at RM1.30 each. Shares in heavily indebted China Evergrande Group were taken off the Hong Kong Stock Exchange on Monday, capping a grim reversal of fortune for the once booming property developer. A committee at the bourse had decided earlier this month to cancel Evergrande's listing after it failed to meet a July deadline to resume trading, suspended since early last year. The delisting on Monday marks the latest milestone for a firm whose painful downward spiral has become symbolic of China's long-standing property sector woes. Once the country's biggest real estate firm, Evergrande was worth more than $50 billion at its peak and helped propel China's rapid economic growth in recent decades. Four men charged with murder of police corporal. This and more after this breather.
Pelbagai tetakan, banyak sangat tetakan. Dan tetakan itu boleh nampak dia tu terlalu marah ke atas mangsa tersebut.
Ke-19 suspek ni, mereka semua kawan sebenarnya. Mengayat hati saya jugalah. Kerana dia telah menderita sebelum dia mengembuskan nafasnya yang terakhir.
Seandainya sunnah itu hidup, pasti dunia ini tenang. Waktu subuh, tak lagi sepi, salam bukan sekadar formality. Masjid bukan hanya bangunan, tapi pusat cinta ilahi. Kita tinggalkan cakna, tapi didiamkan. Kata cinta Rasul, tapi sunnahnya kita simpan dalam buku. Setiap Jumaat dan Sabtu, di TV3. Tanyalah Ustaz dari Muslim, sahabat rohani, penerang hati.
Dia jalan terpandang depan.
Dr. Arfan tu harap muka je handsome.
Culas cukai jalan, JPJ pantau kereta mewah.
Kemungkinan berlaku dia bayar, lepas tu dia batali. Tapi apabila kita buat semakan dengan sistem, memang ternyata rotek tu tamat tempoh.
Ugut dan minta wang tebusan, skam culik merisaukan.
Awak ni siapa ah? Macam mana pula anak saya ada dengan awak?
Saksikan 999 Selasa jam 9 malam di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Welcome back. A syndicate distributing drug-laced drink packets and bottles was busted following the arrest of 4 suspects aged between 29 and 46 in Johor Bahru last week. State Police Chief Dr. Abdul Rahman Arshad said authorities also seized various types of drugs estimated to be worth 2.6 million ringgit. According to Abdul Rahman, the suspects, including 2 Vietnamese women, were nabbed during raids on 4 luxury apartments in the city, carried out between August 18th and 20th. He added that the syndicate rented the guarded high-rise units to pack and store drugs before distributing them in the local market. The haul included 15.4 kilograms of MDMA powder, 208 packets of ecstasy disguised as fruit juice sachets, 19 bottles of liquid drugs, 22 grams of ketamine, 240 ecstasy pills and 4 Aramin 5 pills. Police also seized drug processing and packaging equipment, a car, cash amounting to 7,050 ringgit, as well as 2 gold rings worth 4,300 ringgit. The drug haul is enough to supply 52,839 addicts. The syndicate, active since April, sold drug-laced drinks at night spots for 250 ringgit per bottle. 3 of the suspects tested positive for shabu, while one of the men had a prior record with drug-related and other criminal offences. All 4 suspects have been remanded until this Wednesday to facilitate investigations under the Dangerous Drugs Act. 2 men were arrested on Monday on suspicion of uploading seditious and criminally threatening posts on social media. Bukit Ahmad Criminal Investigation Department CID Director Dr. M. Kumar said the first suspect had been remanded for 2 days, while the second for 4 days. In a statement, Kumar said both suspects, aged 34 and 43, believed to be the owners of the X accounts in question, had been arrested to assist in investigations by Bukit Ahmad's Classified Crime Investigation Unit. Police detected the 2 posts that went viral on social media on Sunday, which contained seditious elements and criminal threats. These included claims that Malaysia would be taken over by extremists and that a revolution was imminent. Another post allegedly commented on an Israeli attack against the Prime Minister's residence. Kumar warned that stern action would be taken by police against parties deliberately inciting public unrest in the country. 4 men were charged at the Alor Magistrates Court on Monday with the murder of a policeman from the Kedah Criminal Investigation Department. No plea was recorded, as the case falls under the jurisdiction of the High Court. Muhammad Badri Muhammad Azami, Muhammad Hafiz Kazli, Badri Iman Abdul Nasir and Muhammad Saifuan Muhammad Noor, aged between 24 and 34, only nodded when the charge was read out before Magistrate Eliana Ismail. All 4 were jointly accused of murdering 35-year-old Corporal Muhammad Hafizul Izham Mazlan in front of a house at Taman Golf on August 7th. The court did not grant bail and set November 23rd for case mention. It was previously reported that Hafizul died at the scene after being struck by a vehicle driven by one of the several burglary suspects. The incident unfolded when the victim, along with 4 other policemen, responded to a tip-off about a suspected break-in. 1 suspect was arrested at the location, while the other 3 were apprehended in Kepala Batas, Pulau Pinang. Powerful typhoon hits Vietnam. The details when Nightline returns.
Culas cukai jalan, JPJ pantau kereta mewah.
Kemungkinan berlaku dia bayar, lepas tu dia batali. Tapi apabila kita buat semakan dengan sistem, memang ternyata rotek tu tamat tempoh.
Ugut dan minta wang tebusan, skam culik merisaukan.
Awak ni siapa ah? Macam mana pula anak saya ada dengan awak?
Saksikan 999 Selasa jam 9 malam di TV3 dan stream sekarang melalui Tonton.
Pelbagai tetakan, banyak sangat tetakan, dan tetakan itu boleh nampak dia tu terlalu marah ke atas mangsa tersebut.
Ke-19 suspek ni mereka semua kawan sebenarnya.
Mengayat hati saya jugalah kerana dia telah menderita sebelum dia mengembuskan nafasnya yang terakhir.
Sofia suka betul Dr. Arfan. Rawat opa.
Dari terempah ke sepatu, warisan alas kaki yang perlu dipelihara.
Ikrar kita harapan satu nyawa, derma organ bantu ringankan beban pesakit.
Disepak, dicekik, dimaki. Tersimpan kisah hitam mangsa buli, cerita anda kongsikan bersama kami.
Gajah haiwan bijak, sesat tahu jalan pulang tetapi bagi beberapa kes bantuan manusia amat diperlukan.
Dan soal awang mengenai ansuran.
MHI Isnin hingga Jumaat 10 pagi juga stream ditonton hanya di TV3.
We're back with news from the foreign front. Typhoon Kajiki brought torrential rains to Vietnam's north-central coast on Monday, felling trees and flooding homes despite wind speeds tapering off from earlier in the day. The country's weather agency said Kajiki's wind speeds eased from 166 kilometers per hour to between 118 and 133 kilometers per hour as the storm hit the coast of Nghệ An and Hà Tĩnh provinces. Power in several areas in Hà Tĩnh province were cut off, roofs were blown out, and floating fishing farms were washed away. Earlier, about 30,000 people were evacuated from coastal areas, with more than 16,500 soldiers and 107,000 paramilitary personnel mobilized to assist and remain on standby for search and rescue operations. Airports and schools in Vietnam had been shut earlier in anticipation of the storm. As well as the existing alerts in place for Vietnam, Thailand's authorities have also sent weather warnings to 58 provinces as Typhoon Kajiki approaches the country. The Thai government has warned that flash floods, runoffs and landslides could hit parts of the country until Wednesday. The caution includes warnings that strong winds will mean waves in the upper Andaman Sea and the upper Gulf of Thailand are forecast to reach up to 3 meters high. Rapid response units and disaster relief task forces have also been reminded to be prepared for immediate operations. 4 journalists are among 20 people killed in an Israeli attack on Nasir Medical Complex in southern Gaza on Monday. The victims were killed on the 4th floor of the hospital in a double-tap strike, the first missile hit followed by a second moments later as rescue crews arrived. Those killed included a photojournalist from the Reuters news agency, a journalist for the Independent Arabic and the Associated Press, and another who worked for the NBC network. The Zionist army confirmed it had carried out the strike but did not clarify its purpose or identify the target. Meanwhile, the Zionist military continues to intensify its attacks on large parts of the Zaitun and Sabra neighborhoods of Gaza City as it moves forward with its plan to seize the city. On to sports now. Datuk Johari Ayub could be leaving the Football Association of Malaysia. It is learned that the president of the National Football Governing Body has handed in a resignation letter and emptied his office. Johari has only been in charge of FAM for 6 months after taking over from Tan Sri Hamidin Muhammad Amin in February 2025. His term was supposed to run until 2029. Deputy President Datuk Yusof Mahdi is expected to be appointed as acting president in the event of Johari's departure. Johari is the 8th FAM president and the first from Sabah, while Yusof has held the deputy president's post since 2017. Moving on to badminton, the 2025 World Championships. In a disappointing turn of events, national men's single shuttler Li Zijia's long-awaited comeback ended abruptly with a first-round exit at the Adidas Arena in Paris on Monday. The world number 52, who had been sidelined for 5 months through injury, could not find his rhythm against South Korea's world number 38, Jeon Hyuk-jin, going down 17-21, 11-21 in 41 minutes. This marked the 27-year-old's worst outing in 5 appearances at the World Meet. having reached the quarterfinals in 2019 and 2021 and last 16 in 2022 and 2023. Meanwhile, there was better news for Malaysia earlier in the day as national men's doubles pair Wan Arif Junaidi and Yap Roy King gave the team a winning start by sweeping aside Japan's Kenya Mitsuhashi and Hiroki Okamura in the opening round. The world number 22 pair needed little time to stamp their mark, taking the first game 21-5 before wrapping up the contest 21-13 in the second. Their win sets up a second-round clash with Thailand's Dachapol Puavara Nukro and Kitty Nupol Kedren. And that concludes Nightline this time around. Before we leave, let's take a look as an American sky surfer takes thrill-seeking to new heights by riding the suspension cables of San Francisco's Bay Bridge after leaping from a helicopter 1,700 meters above the bay. With that, I'm Muhammed. Hamdan. Thanks for watching and stay safe.